Welcome back to AM Northwest. You know, caring too much about what other people think is not helpful of you, what other people think of you. And our next guest has some simple tips to help you stop doing that. We welcome back the author of Think It, How to Train Your Thinking to Get Everything You Want, Master Life Coach Sarah Centrella. Great to see you again.
Always good to see you.
A lot of us worry about what other people think of us, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that almost everybody,
Yeah.
I think all of us are almost obsessed with it until we, get a little older.
Yeah.
In our 30s, 40s, and 50s. We care a little bit less, but if I had known way back that there were some tools that could help kind of protect my mental space from obsessing over what other people think, because it really stops us from taking action.
Yeah, from doing things.
From doing
loving
anything.
life.
We're very worried about judgment, or we're assuming that everybody is kind of like watching us, and that's rarely the case, honestly.
Yeah. There's a whole social media thing where women say, we don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like we're there.
I always
we
said,
just don't care.
When you turn 40, you kind of have that switch turn on, and it's this beautiful thing where all of a sudden you're like, I don't care.
I don't care.
But you don't have to be 40 to stop caring about what other people think about you.
And you talk about the idea that people really are just focused on their lives, not yours.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing to remember, because again, we're always assuming, especially if you're on social media or you're out in a place where you think like people are going to be judging you. But the truth is, we live in a pretty narcissistic society, to be quite honest, and most of the time people are thinking the exact same thing as you. What are people thinking about me?
Right.
So they're very rarely honestly obsessing about you, and if they are, they're not the people you should worry about judging you in the first place, because they're probably actually not advancing in their life the way that they want to, and so they have kind of nothing else going on. So I think it's just one of those things that burns your energy. It just really wastes so much energy that you could put into other places that are much more productive in your life.
I would think too that if someone is like going to share an opinion they have of you, as you mentioned, they're not worth being around, and they're not even worth considering.
Exactly, and most of the time, those people who are sharing negative, feedback or whatnot, if you really kind of look at like where they're at in their life, is that someone you want to take advice from? So I think that's another thing to always kind of keep in the back of your head, like where is this coming from, and do I want to take that seriously or not?
You say no one has the power to define you.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest key. If you really sit back and understand where you are in your life and know yourself, then no one can change that. You get to be the person who decides, who defines you, who decides who you are, who decides who you're gonna be. And so that really makes other people's opinions not valid, right? So I think there is something to be said for if people are giving you feedback, be open to feedback, obviously, because we all want to grow, we all want to change.
Sure.
But that's different than just kind of negative criticism for the sake of criticism. And so you can really protect yourself against that so that you're not absorbing it and, feeling bad about yourself.
Okay, how do you protect yourself against those kind of feelings?
Yeah, so there's two tools that I teach in Think It that I think work really well here. The first one is mental tennis, and it's my favorite one. You can use it for any subject, but we'll use it for this. And I kind of set it up as if you're out on a tennis court and you have all these balls coming at you. Imagine that's your brain. And all day long, these negative thoughts are coming at you. And again, they could be from other people or our assumption of what other people are saying. And so if you can just think like, I'm going to return the serve. In other words, I'm just going to reverse that sentiment. So if I'm worried about people judging me, I'm going to say, I know who I am. No one can affect my identity or my energy unless I let them. So I'm really just saying the opposite back to myself so that it doesn't get absorbed and I don't kind of start to spiral. But then even better, that opposite starts to create that belief in myself as well. So it kind of reinforces for myself who I am and who I want to be and how I want to show up.
What can you give me an example of something maybe you experienced, like that somebody said about you, or that they told you they didn't like this or that about you?
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of that in my life. And
like you're a strong woman. Some people are offended by
that.
that.
Some people are very offended by that, and they don't know how to take that. Or, I think one of the questions I got a lot, I raised my kids as a single mom, and so I would kind of get a lot of criticism about like, well, why didn't you want to date? Or why did you end your marriage over cheating? Or, my ex-husband cheated. And so I thought, Like, I
Did
get
you
to
want to
define
name
that.
him right now? Did you want to talk about him?
I'll leave that one for another day. You know, but I thought I get to decide, you know, and I'm not going to let other people's assumptions of how they would do their relationship affect who I am or how I show up
Right.
in the world. And so remembering that, like, I get to define that.
Yeah. And you also have another exercise called the energy bubble.
Yeah, so the energy bubble is fantastic. It is kind of a proactive tool that you can, it's a visualization technique that you can imagine yourself in this protective bubble before you interact with someone who typically kind of brings that judgment or might trigger you a little bit.
Yeah.
So before you open a text from them or see them or whatever, you can imagine yourself in this bubble, and in the bubble is everything I believe about myself.
Yeah.
So I'm almost like reinforcing it before I interact with them.
Right.
So that when they say these things, it almost like bounces off the bubble, and I'm not absorbing it. I'm not questioning myself. I'm not doubting myself. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate your opinion. On
Yeah.
to the next.
I've noticed like some younger women will be offended by someone staring, like another woman staring at them,
Yeah.
and they automatically go to the negative when sometimes it's usually about, wow, her hair looks great.
Yeah,
or, love
they're
that
like,
outfit.
you look beautiful.
But they immediately
Assuming
went to the
negative.
negative as opposed to thinking it might be positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to not worrying about it at all.
Exactly. I think, you know, at the end of the day, we get to control how we're showing up.
Sure.
And we get to control what we believe about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so if you remember that, and also remember that other people probably aren't spending their entire day
No,
thinking
they're
about
focused
you.
on themselves. That's it. All right, we want to tell everyone the book again is titled Think It, How to Train Your Thinking to Get Everything You Want. Sarah Centrella, thank you so much.
Thank you, Helen.
All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.